Welcome to Sensory Souk's eMonday Meetup. We're really happy to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go over a few housekeeping rules. We are recording this, so if you do not want your picture or voice on the recording, kindly turn your camera off, and I've already muted everybody, so your voice won't come on. We're going to be Sana Abdul Majeed will be speaking today, and Allison's going to introduce her in just a second. But she's going to do a little presentation for us, and then we're going to open the floor up for questions. So you can either type it in the chat feature, or you can kind of literally raise your hand and I will unmute you and you can call. Or you can ask. So I'm going to hand it over to Allison, and she'll take it from there.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is well and excited for this evening. So we would like to give a very warm welcome to Sana, who is a pediatric occupational therapist with over 8 years of experience in the field. And she has special areas of interest in ASD, and she feels very strongly about enabling children and helping them reach their fullest potential, which I think is great considering the fact that she's an OT and then she works in a school. So wonderful start. Sana is, I'm going to read this, and that's why I've got my glasses on, because she's trained and has a huge amount of experience in a certain protocol. So I'm just going to read this. Sana is trained in SIPT, Handwriting Without Tears, PECS, Attention Autism, Oral Motor Protocols, and Early Start Denver Model. So that's quite a reputation that precedes you, Sana. So without further ado, yeah, exactly, I will hand the floor to Sana, and welcome, and we're very excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you so much, Alison.
You're welcome.
And thank you for inviting me, lovely ladies. So I've just prepared like a short presentation, and that covers like very basic areas that I commonly see parents, finding difficult to work with. And then we can have questions after that. So I'll just share my screen. Can you all see this?
Let's see. At the bottom, there's a green share screen. Do you see?
Share content, yeah.
Content.
Here we go.
All right.
There we are. Perfect. We're in. Thanks, Sana.
Okay.
And if anybody can't see this actually, those of you who don't use Zoom that often, you can actually pinch the screen to make it bigger. So if you want to have a little bit more detail, you can do that.
Can you see the full screen version?
Yeah, handwriting, right?
Yes.
No, we need to go back. Okay.
There we go.
So the first one is attention span. I see most of the time, parents having difficulty with that, whether you are homeschooling or whether you're just, like giving them a short lesson at home. It is an area that they find challenging. So it's very important to understand that if your child's attention span is of 10 minutes, you cannot present them with an activity of 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 1 hour, They are going to get bored and they will try and escape. So always provide them with regular intervals, and those intervals can comprise of, movement breaks or sensory breaks, or, if you cannot give them like every 15 minutes or half an hour, then at least, a 40-minute break is recommended. Then you can even, while they are attending the lesson, you can even give them like fidget toys or something to, stay regulated. Like, even as adults, we tend to have coffee or tea, while we are watching something very intently or while we are working. So they need that sort of regulation as well. And there are proprioceptors or like receptors in your mouth that keep you awake. So if you give them like a chewing gum or something to chew on, that can, also provide them with like enough amount of, input, and they can stay regulated while they are chewing on something and working on something simultaneously. Then I always say, don't just teach by one, particular input. Always use a multi-sensory approach. If you are teaching them handwriting, they don't necessarily need to write on paper. They can write in foam, they can write in sand, they can write in, a rice tray. Use various different modalities to teach a single concept. Here are some examples of tools. I could have gone on and on, but I just like limited myself with a few. So this is a disco seat here. Can you see my cursor? Okay, so this is a disco seat here, first one. Then we have a weighted lap pad. Then we have ear defenders. Now, not every activity requires auditory input. Sometimes you may want to block the background noise if a child is watching something intently. So give them those ear defenders to block the background noise maybe. Then here's an example of multisensory teaching. I have put mnemicons here. So when you're doing maths, you can teach them using putty or Play-Doh and use mnemicons to teach various maths concepts. Then if you have a trampoline, nothing like it. They can do jumping jacks on it or just plain jumping on it and get that regulation going. Then another issue is like related to handwriting. Children tend to have messy handwriting and a lot of issues can contribute to that. But let's go back a little. When you try and teach them letter formation, always teach capitals first. Don't teach them small letters. And I know a lot of people will conflict with that, but it's but so I've done handwriting without tears, and the program strongly believes that if you teach capitals first, children are more likely to be successful. Because look at it this way, all the capital letters start at the top, all the capital letters start the same vertical plane. So it's easier, for the child to remember their formation. Then if you're teaching them cursive, or if you want your child to learn cursive, teach print before cursive. Don't start them right on cursive. That can also affect their speed of writing, and they're more likely to make errors that way. Then neatness. So talking about messy handwriting, a number of times, children, they tend to have messy handwriting, but it looks even messier because they don't know how to space it. So teach them after each word, you need to give space. They can use their finger to do that, or a popsicle stick maybe, or there are a lot of fancy tools available in the market, if they like to use those. And then I've also seen, if kids are made to do exercises, resistive exercises, that really helps right before handwriting. So they can either follow their own, they can use putty maybe, or they can use their own body and do hand wiggling and pushing and pulling using their hands. That has also shown to be, resulting in good handwriting. So I'm a huge fan of putty. If I'll tell you to buy one thing, that would be putty. If you invest in good putty, nothing like it, And I've seen parents buying a lot of Play-Doh. I'm like, why do you buy Play-Doh? Buy putty, It's going to last longer. It's going to build their hand strength. It's so much better than putty, It's so much better than Play-Doh, And always start with green putty. I feel if you have younger children, then let's say under 5 years, then go for even yellow one. But different brands have different resistances, so I can't really say, but I've seen usually green one is medium strength. So always go for medium strength. It is very good for building hand strength, and it gives amazing results. And for now, if you want to just use your cloth spin or pegs, something like that, that can also, improve a child's hand strength. Then I've seen parents always wanting to, change their children's writing grasp. So the basic rule is, if a child is writing properly and if he's holding the pencil according to the parent incorrectly, the grasp does not need to be altered. If the grasp is not causing pain, if it's not affecting your handwriting, if there are no issues related to the grasp, you don't need to change it. However, if you feel that the grasp is, making a child get tired quickly, or if he or she is not writing properly because of the grasp, then you can opt for changing the grasp. And there are a number of ways to do that. A very basic would be provide them with short pencils. So we always provide them with long pencils and then expect them to hold that long pencil properly, which is very difficult for little hands. So always use short pencils to write. Those automatically put your hand in tripod grasp and you are able to write better. Also, a number of grips are available in the market, but then there needs to be a graduation plan, make sure that the child doesn't become dependent on the writing grasp. You don't want it to be a lifelong support kind of thing. Fine, there will be cases where children might need it. Also, kids who put too much pressure on the writing tool, they can also be provided with a writing grasp. But now this particular brand, I'm not endorsing it, but I've seen like these grips come with a graduation plan. So if you can find something like that, that's better. Then here's an example of a good sitting posture, because posture also affects your handwriting tremendously. Now I know you cannot ask the child, oh, sit on a 90-degree angle and keep your hand like this and do that. For a very basic rule, make sure that their feet are, well rested on the floor. Their elbow is also rested on the floor, and they are stabilizing the paper. At least these three things can result in better handwriting. Okay, ladies, I could have gone on and on, but Rana had strictly told me to limit myself. So let's start with questions.
Oh,
Maybe.
goodness. Sana, you're so funny. Sana, do you want to just maybe unshare your screen for
Yeah, I'm looking for the option.
Oh, it's so funny, I know. So
okay, stop share. Okay.
There we go. Thank you. Sana, that was great. Those are great, quick tips and tools to kind of help us with homeschooling our children, because it's, I know in our case, it was kind of a two-pronged kind of issue, because it's like, oh, there's technology to deal with, and then there's learning to happen. There's learning that needed to happen. So there was a really big curve with trying to, use the mouse and sit and then attend. And there was a lot of skills that needed to happen. So yeah, I mean, can you, we're opening this up for questions, but I'd like to ask the first question, if that's okay. What would you say, how can you, and I know this is a loaded question, but how can you differentiate, and we were talking earlier, between behavior and dysregulation due to maybe, for example, like a sensory issue? How can you kind of, and then what supports would you put in place? And this is just like a quick, I know you could write a term paper on this. But maybe just some quick things for a parent to understand, okay, wait, this is not behavior, or this is not sensory, and I need to deal with it in this way.
Yeah. So like one very common, thing that I always ask the parents to notice is, so a behavior is always like object driven, a child is trying to escape something, you will see that. So if it's a particular subject during which a child gets frustrated, or only during that particular period of time do you see something, then you can probably identify it as behavior. But then again, I've also seen sensorial strategies working really well in behavioral problems. So even if a child is having like a behavioral issue, and if you give them like some downtime to walk or something, some sensorial strategy, they will come back. And I feel the reason for this is, like, even for us as adults, when we exercise, your happy hormones, endorphins are released. So probably that tends to, just balance the thing, and they are happy to go back to whatever they were doing. So I feel like, fine, it could be a behavioral problem, but, and they may be trying to escape, but offering a sensory solution may solve your problem.
Absolutely. And it's something as simple as taking a walk, or
taking a walk, or like I said, chewing on something crunchy or something that they like. It just helps you gain, like even as adults, like I've sat in meetings where I wanted to, sorry for the language, ladies, punch someone, but then as soon as I drank my coffee, I'm like, calm and like all composed and being nice to the other person. So that happens, Yeah, so I always try and, like put myself in their shoes, like children's shoes, and then work. Yeah.
Work that way. Absolutely. We've got one question from, I'm going to unmute you. from iPhone. She said, or he or she says, I have a few fidget toys that I allow my son to use while he's watching the videos. I
Right.
think videos for learning. I feel it distracts him more than calms him. What can I do about that? And iPhone, I've unmuted you, so please feel free to jump in here with your question. Okay,
Hello.
go ahead, Sana.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I always say this about sensory toys and strategies and everything sensory. Like each child is different from the other, every strategy may not work well for every child. So if you have found out and very observant on your part that you have seen that, you know, your child does not do well with fidget toys, it tends to distract him even more. So you may want to, you know, try and find another sensory solution for it, like chewing something or taking a walk, you know, like all of us are different. So like a while back when I gave an example of coffee, what if someone does not drink coffee, you know, they would not feel better when they drink coffee. They would rather get, you know, upset if I offer them coffee. So each and every person is different. Similarly, there's no one size fit all formula for, you know, this. If they are not doing well with fidget toys, you may want to try a disco seat, you may want to try, you know, something edible to offer to them. I hope I've answered your questions.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. She also says, okay, hang on, also, I try when possible to do the computer work for him. I think the typing and whatnot, whether typing or submitting tasks to relieve some stress and make things finish faster. Do you think I should push him to learn these things, to try and be more independent? It's a great question.
Was he like, I have a few questions related to that. So was he typing before this whole thing happened? Like
They're just starting to learn how to do that. So like their tasks in their computer class now is focused on Microsoft Word,
right,
typing and like highlighting and changing the color, and they just
right,
learned how to add photos. So these kinds of things, when it's like a computer class, I let him do himself. I help him, of course, I'm there with him, but I try to let him do it. The
yeah,
other things, if it's possible that I print the worksheet, for example, out, he'll fill it in by hand, and I'll take a photo of it, and then I'll submit it through the school's platform.
is that an
But
option?
sometimes some of the activities are like not something I can print out and he can fill out and I send in that way. Sometimes like he'll need to use the document they sent in, and sometimes he'll type a few words here and there, but because he's so frustrated of just even sitting and doing the work in the first place, and that brings out so many behaviors. It's a struggle to get anything done. So what I'm trying to focus on getting the work itself done, and then I manage the rest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is kind of what I'm trying to do.
Okay,
He's 8. He just turned 8.
right.
If you want to think of the age as well.
Sure, sure. So like you said, if he's getting frustrated by it and you want to offer support, of course, I think you should continue to do that, because we don't want to create negative experiences for a child. However, maybe, you know, in the evening or during some other time of the day, continue with the typing practice. Also, like you said, he's sitting for too long and he's getting frustrated. So again, those sensory breaks and even the exercises that help for handwriting can also be very beneficial for typing. So maybe try doing that, you know.
Okay.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. We have another question from Sabika. Sabika, would you like to ask it yourself or should I read it for you? Oh, I thought I unmuted her. Well, I'll just read it for her. She says, thank you for the talk. My son, who's 5-year-old, refuses to hold a pencil. I've been advised to try thick pencils, writing support tools, which we will be checking with Sensory Souk, great. However, out of curiosity, at which point is a child given an adjustment at school to allow him or her to type her work as opposed to write? Is this a common allowance given in school if there are significant delays in handwriting? That's a great question.
Yeah. So thank you for your question, Sabika. Again, over here, it varies from school to school. Not all schools, exempt children from handwriting. I know that. The school that I work in, of course, is a different case altogether because it's a specialized school. However, if he's not ready, like I will need some more information about the child here. Has there been like previously negative experiences related to writing? Was he like right away started on pencil, or was he doing some sort of other writing before that, or coloring or something like that?
Hi, so my son he just doesn't like to hold a pencil. He doesn't
Right.
have the patience to sit down. When he does sit down, he would rather read a book or do some puzzles or work with number pieces rather than write something or color or scribble. So that's what I was just wondering. I mean, if we are going to try everything possible, but should there be a point in time where he's learned a bit too late, then would he how flexible are schools, generally speaking?
So like I said, different schools tend to have different, policies related to this. You may want to check with your son's school. However, I would say he's too young. So like, I would say continue trying, fine, not to make him like frustrated, but let's not give up now, also stop pencil maybe for a while, give him crayons for coloring. And I know you said that he doesn't like to color, but try and pair it with like a very highly preferred item that he likes and see how he responds to that.
Okay, all right. And there was another advice that someone gave me, that to start off with paints because there's no friction involved. Is friction sometimes a reason why children don't take up on writing right away? That it's an effort to exert?
Of course, handwriting is a very, like, we see it as very easy, but kids, because there are a number of contributing factors, needed to do handwriting. So there can be multiple reasons why your son does not want to write. But I've also seen, kids who would not write for a very long time, but eventually end up writing, because they would have gained that hand strength by then. So while you are not making him do writing on a paper, try and make him play with those interlocking toys, and make sure that all the other contributing factors are there. He's gaining muscle strength, his eye hand coordination is amazing, and all those things. So eventually, because you see, if he's not writing, it may not necessarily be a behavioral issue. It could be all those laggings which is causing him not to write. So he's just trying to cover that up with escape. You need to work on all those areas, and then present him with a paper and pen or pencil in that case.
Great, thank you very much.
I would also again say, I hope your son is not like aversive to like messy play and things like that.
Like Play-Doh and things like that, because the texture puts him off, or silly putty, or all of those things.
He is aversive to like all these items then, right?
Yes, he doesn't like any of that stuff.
Have you tried putting a pencil grip on a pencil and then having him write?
No, but I think I have to call Sensory Souk next to get some of these supplies.
Okay.
We are here for you. Cool. All right, great. Are there any more questions? Because I can keep asking questions, actually.
I have a few questions as well, but I don't want to jump in unless anyone's got some questions. This is a good time to ask an occupational therapist questions. So if nobody else has a question at the moment, then I will ask one of my questions. So Sana, we know that everyone's children are at home at the moment, and everyone's children are totally out of routine. Obviously, we're trying our best to keep everybody where they should be, going to bed on time, waking up on time, getting ready for school. It's just trying to keep in that routine. But can you, my children, just depending on who it is and depending on the day, everyone has a wobble. I have a wobble, the kids have a wobble. And I was just wondering if you can recommend any advice to try and keep children kind of as calm and routine as possible. But is there anything that you could kind of recommend just to try and keep them, because obviously we can't go out, like we can't go to the park, they can't really exert a huge amount of energy. So I was just wondering if there was anything that you could recommend to us that would help us along in this time.
It's not like very OT specific, but I would say music and yoga probably, you know, because those things
Right.
tend to help. And like exercise in any form basically. And I know even I'm having days where I'm just like not doing anything and acting like a couch potato. And I'm like, what is wrong? You know, even when you're working online, you are just sitting on one chair and you're not doing, and then even the sleep is disturbed because of that. And
Yes.
there's just
Yes.
so much, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
So just, you know, like carrying out physical activities, and we tend to, you know, like take physical activities or the concept of exercise so for granted. You know, it can do wonders, like even simple breathing exercises, or like walking or jumping, or like playing a game, you know, but physical games, not like board games or, you know, things like that. And you are lucky that way that you have your children with you, so you can play with them and, you know, have some rule based game, but that is physical in nature, and they can all enjoy, spend time with their mom, but at the same time, you know, release that excessive energy and get those endorphins going. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Definitely. We've got 2 more questions that just came in. We're going to start with Del. I've unmuted you. Would you like to ask your question, or should I?
Go ahead, Rana, no
Okay,
problem.
sure. What exercise would you suggest to gain good hand muscle control?
Okay. So there are multiple. I can probably, I don't know if it would be possible, but if I can just forward like a picture or like a
Sure.
video to Rana, and then she can forward it to you guys, would that work?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Thank
when
you.
I talk about resistive exercises, I you all know putty, but like, and I have putty right here. So simple exercises using putty, or if you don't have putty at the moment, you can start with dough, like hardly kneaded dough, but it wouldn't give you the same result. So just, you know, pushing putty with your hand, pulling it, putting it between your fingers, and cutting it like a scissor. I'll forward you the chart, so it would be better for you to understand.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I also want to add something. So I know hand strength is really important, but at the same time, we should not forget about trunk control, shoulder control, elbow control, basically the whole body, you know. So push-ups, pushing, pulling activities, running, jumping. You will see a result if you do all these things, you know, even for a month continuously, you will see great results.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks, Rana. I have a question particularly. Now, my son, he has weak muscle control. I mean, not only in the hand area, but as you mentioned, like limbs and other part of the. However, I mean, we have involved him in all these physical activities like swimming and football and play ball and other things. Uh, he loves swimming, horse riding, and all this. But when it comes to football, like or running activities, he just wouldn't run. You know, he just don't want to do that. I am trying to find out, figure out how to make him. I really don't know that whether he really gets tired or he just wants to avoid that or. For whatever reasons. I mean, can you think or suggest like how I can help him better there?
Sure. So I have a question. Was it the case that he used to run previously and then he stopped running?
No, not really. Since young, he always wanted to avoid running. However, he's okay when I put him on the treadmill. Like he walks on the treadmill like every day. I put him for a while, and when it comes in the open area, now the football is within the closed and inside the stadium or whatever. But when he is outside in nature, then he is like he's gone. So he can yeah, he's not there.
Okay, so
I've
you're
got one of
saying
those.
he likes so you're saying he likes to run in like grass
Yeah.
or places like that, but not while playing.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
It could be a preference also. I don't know. I mean, it would be better if I knew your son, so I could have answered the question better. However, about football, football is a complicated game. It requires a lot of coordination, you know, and so does running also. I don't know, maybe he has fallen previously, or he could have like had a bad experience, or he gets tired because of, like you said, weak musculature in the pelvic area. So there could be multiple factors. So I would say, rather than like, let's not put him for playing football instantly, take it in a graded manner. Maybe in the house, if he can just kick the ball at the moment, if he can begin with that, or if he can work on building his pelvis control first and then go play football in a field, because it tends to bring a lot of social pressure too when you are playing out there and people are looking at you.
Yeah, I
So
get you.
yeah, so
Uh,
maybe if he has siblings, or if he can play with one of his parents. uh,
okay, no, he has no siblings. I'm the one, like, I'm mostly the
okay,
shadow teacher, or like I'm assisting most of the time.
maybe
He
you
goes
play
to
football
the
with him.
yeah. I have learned some tricks going with him. It's supposed to be his class, but ends up being both.
Okay.
Uh, Now he did not have any injury or any such thing. Yes, one point was during delivery. There it was a vacuum delivery, so a lot of um, his issues are related to that
Okay,
since birth. So we know, but we are trying to help him out a lot, and he's improving and he's progressing day by day. Uh,
mashallah.
you mentioned that at the pelvic muscle control. I also asked about the hand muscle control. Is there
Mhm.
any exercise that you can suggest
For pelvis
for
control.
yes,
Sure,
yes, for
sure.
pelvic muscle?
Okay, so one very basic exercise would be bridging. I don't know if you have heard the term.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
So bridging is very good for building pelvis control. And then pull him, like if he could do the bridging on a yoga ball, a big gym ball, that will also enhance his muscle tone. So when I forward the video of other resistive exercises to Rana, I'll probably forward those too. I'll just make a note. Did I answer your question? Hello?
Yeah, thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello? I can't hear Rana.
No, I don't. I can't hear Rana either.
I
Rana, are you there?
I am. I just muted myself. I'm not a very good admin, am I?
Oh.
So
She
let
did
me
a
ask
great
the
job there.
question now. So thank you, Del. And we will get everything, we're going to put everything into the video. And so all of Sana's handouts will be put into the video, and we'll share that once we have that rendered and ready to go. So we've got one more question from RAK. I will unmute you now. It says, at what age can we expect an ASD child to start writing? I know all ASD kids are different, but still, any idea?
You answered the question yourself.
All right.
There's no specific timeline, and like I said, each child, especially the ones who are on the spectrum, are completely different from each other. Also, the way at times you would feel that they're not taking it in, or they're not learning a particular skill, but they might surprise you later on in life. So I can't really give you a specific timeline. For typically developing children, of course, there are like timelines, like by the end of 3 years, you would see a typical child make a vertical line and a horizontal line. And then, by 4 years, they would make like a square, a triangle, a circle, things like that. But for ASD, it varies from child to child. Also, rather than handwriting, you need to check for readiness first, whether they are ready to write. And then if they are not, you should be working on developing those pre-writing skills first, and then carry on with multisensory handwriting. I've seen kids who do multisensory handwriting tend to write sooner.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying like writing in foam or writing in
Yeah,
sand, that kind
yeah,
of.
or writing in air, or playing games, where let's say I write any letter on a child's palm and then I ask him, what did I write? So you are working on letter formation simultaneously at the same time, you are doing the social interaction, like you are achieving multiple objectives by this, one particular activity. So write on various different media, write in sand if you have, like a grassy area or somewhere like that, write in all possible materials.
Excellent. Okay, that's great advice, Sana. So do we have any more questions for Sana? There's a chat feature. You can type them there, or you can kind of raise your hand and I can unmute you. And I'm looking at people now just to see if anybody has any questions. Right. Um, Great. And so you were talking about exercising the trunk and strengthening the trunk, and that's going to be something that's, from what I understood, it's very good for fine motor skills and even regulation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
can you just give a couple of ideas about why that is and what someone could do to kind of strengthen?
Yeah, even like, something as simple, and that's why, when we see like, and it's recommended also like that younger children spend a lot of time on their tummies, because even when you are on your tummy, you are pushing a lot on your hands and your arches are being developed then. So everything has a reason behind them. That's why you see kids who skip crawling and start, to stand by skipping that. You see a lot of hand-related issues in those kids as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
so crawling is such an important milestone,
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So do the, what do they call it?
Tummy time.
Tummy time, and then there's an exercise for that. I'm forgetting the name.
Okay, I don't know.
Push-ups. Is it push-ups on the
Sure.
Yeah, I
floor?
think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do.
So do that,
Uh,
those are really helpful. Like even as adults, it would help you greatly.
So
Great.
Sana, maybe just another suggestion, maybe a resource that you might be able to provide for everybody, because after listening to what you're saying, actually, it's quite inspired me to really start doing some more kind of OT based exercises at home, just things that we can practice, because obviously the kids aren't attending the classes that they normally would for swimming and so on and so forth. So apart from the kind of bridgy one and the kind of resistance, there would there be any others that you could kind of recommend that we really should be thinking about doing on a daily basis, so that we can incorporate them into a routine? I was just thinking maybe we could do it as a kind of family, like the siblings and we could have a little exercise class in the house. Might be quite a good idea.
So I don't know, like if you would be up for it, but we used to play a lot of games, like even in school, like when I'm working with my students, with those parachutes and stuff, and those are funny songs and they sound funny, and like you may feel that those are funny, but trust me, it's so much fun to do all those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can maybe put those, and then you can kill two birds with one stone. You can teach handwriting and sing songs simultaneously for all the other parents. There are songs available on YouTube by Handwriting Without Tears, so maybe I can put those links.
Please,
and
yes,
you
please.
can teach letter formation while singing and dancing, so you are exercising, but at the same time you are teaching them like L goes this way or V goes a diagonal way and things like that,
Right.
Yeah, and for
Great.
Alison,
So,
I'll specifically put some fun songs for you and your family.
Oh, thank you very much. That would be great. So just one more thing, because you've talked about handwriting without tears a few times. I've experienced handwriting without tears, and I know a little bit about it just because of Sensory Souk, but just for the audience here, would you be able to just maybe just explain what it is?
Okay, so it's a curriculum for teaching handwriting. It teaches capital letters, small letters, not just handwriting. It teaches like literacy, maths. It teaches you how to start a child on those, basic skills to build up, a successful handwriting profile, basically.
Right.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
And apparently there aren't that many, great handwriting curriculum or trainings available. So this is the one that is most widely known, and
Yes.
it's an evidence-based approach. So you see great results when you do that. And they also use like print and some other tool to, correct writing issues. So if you have a messy or, handwriting, if you have someone who writes like a little messily, I don't like to use the term, sorry, but if you have someone who has like writing issues related to size, orientation, spacing, they address all those issues.
Okay, great. Along that line, we have one last question. That's from Susanna.
Great, that's great.
Awesome, Susanna. So I unmuted you, Susanna. So it says, she said,
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
I'll read it. So I said that we actually did the handwriting without tears program a few years ago.
Sure.
I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years ago, and it helped a lot tremendously. And writing in general was one of his like extremely non-preferred activities, just because I think he was struggling with it, and he needed a lot of like positive reinforcement. Like after every letter, he needed to look at his teacher to get like the comfort or whatever that he's doing it well. He's now in year 3 in a British school. He's doing really well. I mean, obviously he can write and he's doing everything, but I find that he still has a little, not as badly as before, obviously, but he still does have some issues with like having his handwriting be neat, sometimes even writing the letters with the correct size and stuff like that.
Right.
And a lot of the time, like let's say if he's writing small letters and he does something like an H or a B or whatever, he tends to kind of not make the stick too long, because then I notice he's not starting from the top, for example. And then I correct him, then he just stretches it out. So then it's way too long, or it's just the sizing is not that great. It's not horrible. He's doing well. He's writing everything, and I think he still is not a big fan of having to write too much, but he does do it. But yeah, I don't know how I can work on that, especially because I mean we're not doing this now during school since we're in quarantine, but previously they've been working the last couple of years with like trying to write cursive as well, and that's even worse. So
Thank you, Susanna.
yeah,
Oh, that's a great question.
it's just
That's
yeah,
a great
it's
question.
very
What do you
messy
think,
writing.
Sana?
Yeah.
What do you think,
Okay,
Sana? What can we do about that?
Yeah. So I don't know if Susanna has already tried that, but so the program recommends that you have the children write in blocks first to minimize their letter size.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess when he did the program, they were doing this, but now when they do things at school, they only have the normal, lined notebooks and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think we need to go a few notches back, and because at times you need that repetition, to consolidate a skill. So maybe now, especially during quarantine, we have that time, so maybe if you could just, and also I would tell all the other parents also, make sure you're not forcing a child to write for more than 15 minutes. 15 minutes is more than enough. So if you could work on that. Also, they come up with these 2-line papers for small letters specifically. If you could make those, or rather than buying, I can probably, I don't have a scanner at the moment, but if I'll find a picture, you just have to make 2 lines rather than giving him those 3 lines, give him those 2 lines. So you will see,
Can you send us a photo just so I'm sure of what
maybe
you
I
mean?
can send you a photo.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Susanna. Thanks,
Sana.
Great.
Thanks. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh, wow. Really good tips today. Thank you all. I really appreciate Sana. Yeah, no, you've got great tips. I think we could have opened it up and had you here for like 3 hours, but unfortunately our time is up for today. Yeah, no, it's up for today. But thank you so much, Sana, for giving us your time. It was wonderful. We appreciate all of the advice you gave. And I will hand it over to Allison again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sana. Really, really useful information. And I think even more so during these times when we are really seeing how our children are working. It's interesting times for everybody. So yes, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you everybody for joining us. Just to let you know that we will be emailing and posting out the recording of this evening's topic, along with the handouts that Sana is very kindly going to produce for us to accompany this talk. Just to let you know, guys, that Sensory Souk are still open, even though the store is closed. So we are delivering for free next day. We have a website, sensorysouk.com, which is fully live and fully operational. So if there's anything we can help you with, please come onto the website and take a look. And if you need any further advice from us, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We would love to hear from you.
All right, excellent. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your time, and we will see you soon. All right, we'll get this video out soon. We're going to be posting Sabika's from last week tomorrow. We're just a little lagged on producing those. But thank you all so much, and take care of each other and stay safe. All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye. Thanks, Sana. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.